Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LeanTossup College Football Podcast. My name is Robert Martin, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, BuckMetrics. How are you doing tonight?
I feel like I am in a bar in Eunice, New Mexico, which is 2 hours and 40 minutes from the UTEP campus. I feel like I'm in there with five grumpy people who are just unhappy with their lot in life. They're talking about their cool friends that went to go work in the big city, to work at the Northrop plant. You know, one of them is named Charlotte. And these people are just unhappy. And then in comes some happy new faces that are just glad to be in this horrible bar. One of them's named Liberty. Another one is named Sam Houston. And that's what we have in Conference USA. When I first looked at this teams, it's like, my gosh, what is this ragtag mess? But you know what? I love the ragtag mess of college football, and Conference USA is it. Just some brief overview points on Conference USA. They lost to realignment, Charlotte, aforementioned, then UTSA, Rice. I'm not sure how that happened other than where they are. North Texas, UAB, Florida Atlantic, and that's it. So those teams averaged BuckMetrics rating of negative 0.07. The teams that remain are a negative 5.1 if we exclude Western Kentucky, negative 8.9. So the departures really hurt the strength of this conference. Through realignment, they gained Liberty, New Mexico State, Sam Houston, and Jacksonville State. Can't really rate the last two because I don't rate FCS teams, but the first two are an average of minus 4.6. So kind of get a feel for where we are in terms of where these guys are from a talent standpoint. In our gambling podcast, we did mention this. This is really cool. Basically, Conference USA has grabbed the Maction baton and moved it up a month. Between September 28th and October 25th, they have the following weekday games. They have 6 on a Tuesday, 7 on a Wednesday, 4 on a Thursday, 1 on a Friday, and they're all on CBS Sports or the ESPN family. I'm excited about this. Now, if you look at this group of teams that we call Conference USA, as a Canadian, do you look at this and think, you all put your moniker Conference USA on this group of teams. This probably explains why you guys have such problems in the lower 48, I think you call us. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's among that. Yeah, I think if you now I know all these teams, right? But if you were to ask any random person, maybe they know Liberty. Maybe they're because that was the I can't remember what his name was. What's the evangelical pastor who started Liberty? I can't remember what his name was.
Falwell.
But Falwell, that's right. That might be why they recognize Liberty, but everything else, it's like, yeah, I know, I have no idea who any of these are the schools you haven't heard about. This isn't Ohio State or Yale or something. Although Yale could, eventually the Ivy League could maybe rejoin the Division One. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
But no, it is fascinating that this is called. I mean, I guess for some conferences are named really dumb things because, I guess you could call this Conference USA because there's no other conference called USA. But the Big Ten has currently 12 teams, about to be 14. 14 currently, 14. About to be 16.
To be 16.
The Big 12 has 16 teams right now.
14.
It's 14 now. It'll be 12.
Yeah.
Wait, no, is it?
Yeah, so they will.
It's 14 now. Then it'll go back.
For the first
it'll have to go back to its proper number. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Pac-12 has, I guess currently 12 teams, but it'll be 10 soon. Yeah. Again, it's there's two conferences that are just named Big. There are a lot of weird things about college football conference names. College football is great. It's just the conferences have. You guys got to figure that out, honestly. There needs to be a committee. But again,
you guys huh?
You do need to I mean, here's the thing. This is definitely not a priority for the new head of the NCAA. I mean, obviously he's got far more important legal battles to fight, and trying to get Congress to help them, that means you're surely desperate. But at some point, they got to be like, okay, we can only have one conference named Big. You have to settle this. You want to like do some sort of tournament? Go ahead, but you can't have two conferences named Big something. Like they have to be differentiated by some other like huge. One of them gets to be called huge. Then like that's it. Like
that might be the next Big Ten, the huge 10. You know who
yeah,
nails it is the Sun Belt. It's perfect. I
yeah,
know exactly what it
perfect.
is. I know what you guys are.
SEC perfect. You nailed that one. That's
Yep,
perfect. You're
yep.
like, is Oregon in the SEC? No, it's not. Why would it be? But like, you're like the Big Ten. Where is that? Which are the big states? I don't know.
The Big Ten of them. Yeah, come on. Um, so you know, this year we're going to put a little different kind of structure on the previews. Basically, we're going to have one most fascinating team. Do a little deeper dive on them. Then we're going to put everybody else into one of these categories. Elevator up. You expect the team to make a big jump from last year. Elevator down. Make a big step down from last year. Stairs up, stairs down. Smaller progress or regression, and then stuck in the lobby, which is basically the same thing, or basically just not compelling enough to deserve a huge amount of discussion. So, starting off, my most fascinating team this season in the Conference USA, if not maybe the whole group of five, is, and people might have thought this was shtick last year, but I was serious. The New Mexico State Aggies, 7-6 last year. 7-6. How do you get to 7-6? You get to a bowl game, and they won a bowl game. And I'm telling you, nobody saw that coming. I am a huge fan of the coach. We'll get into him a little bit later, and I didn't think this was possible. That's the great news. The bad news: they were a negative 10.9 BuckMetrics power rating last year, but you know what? We'll get past that. So why do I like them, and what is so fascinating about them? It is their second season under Jerry Kill. He improved their offense from a negative 5.6 to a negative, it fell from a negative 5.6 to a negative 7.4. Most of that was in the beginning of the season, as evidenced by their quarterback, Diego Pavia. You might remember that he was the object of a lot of scorn early in the year. And actually, as I dug into this team, I was kind of surprised how I landed on New Mexico State as my most fascinating team. He was horrible in the opener versus Nevada, which, was one of those awesome early season games that, had no competition. Unfortunately, he was horrible. He was on the bum list early in the season. Apex, for those who don't know, that is my quarterback ranking. It stands for adjusted passing efficiency versus expectations. 100 is an average for all quarterbacks in the FBS. In the first 6 games, his apex was negative 31, which means that he just shouldn't have taken a snap. In the last 6 games, his apex was 172. 172. If you just exclude that horrible opener, if you exclude both the Power 5 and the FCS teams, so you get just kind of what he's looking at versus the conference this year, his apex was 118, which is very good. The Power 5 teams that he played last year, these are some pretty good defenses. Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Missouri, who the only thing they do well is defend. His apex was in the game at Liberty, it was 187. In fairness, that was when Hugh Freeze had one foot out the door, and he ran for 6.2 yards per rush. And just to go a little deeper in his background, he actually won the Junior College National Championship back in 2021. So I like the quarterback, and that was his first season. Obviously, in FBS, definitely has room to improve. Along the offensive line, I have an improvement metric. Only 5 teams in all of FBS have a higher improvement metric for the offensive line, so they took some lumps there. They should improve quite a bit. I have a receiving metric called Ryan, RYAN, receiving yards above noob, which basically says, if you had a noob or just a replacement level receiver catch this many passes, how many more yards do they get above that? And cumulatively, all of the Ryan that they got from 2022, most of it returns from this season. Looking at the defense, Jerry Kill is a defensive guy. He improved their defense from just about a negative 16 last year to a negative 4 this year. and it was 8.6 points better over the last six games of the season than the first six of the season. And that goes back to, what do I say about first year coaches? Look at what they do on their side of the ball in their first year. You're seeing it right there. We've got proof of concept already. I'm going on and on because this is a fascinating team. So hold on, you'll be able to speak in a moment, Robert. They have a low improvement metric on defense, but I think that hidden there should be overall more improvement because of that. How much stronger they were in the second half of the season. Um, if basically they improve a little more over the whole season, they would be in one of the best defenses in the entire conference. Jerry Kill, what's his resume? 7 seasons at Southern Illinois, 3 conference titles. In his third year at Northern Illinois, he had a conference title. Then he went off and he built a foundation that actually went on to 2 coaches that succeeded him, both Dave Doran and Rod Carey. Doran's still the head coach at NC State, and Carey actually was hired by Temple with the remnants of Kill's success there. He had 2 8-win seasons at Minnesota. He actually finished second in the Big Ten West in 2014, and Minnesota was just absolutely horrible before he came on board. So I love this situation. They actually play 13 regular season games this season because they play at Hawaii. I only have them a field goal dog or worse in only 3, at Liberty, at Western, and at Auburn. Circa has them at 6 for the season total wins. The over is actually plus money, which is nuts. If you listen closely, you might hear something. You know what you hear? You hear Las Vegas is sleeping on New Mexico State. I love the Aggies. I might have jinxed this. I looked on Amazon to see if there are New Mexico State football t-shirts, and there are. I'm fired up for this. This is my favorite bet so far this season. New Mexico State over 6.
That's a pretty fair bet. I mean, New Mexico State did have a really, really fascinating season last year. They were... I remember that game where they upset Boise when Boise was not good, as 19-point underdogs or something, and they just straight up won. And it was like a Thursday night game, and I'm just like, this is because it was something crazy when they win 16-0 or something. It was just it was never in they just kept slowly scoring, and just Boise didn't do anything. I think, if I remember correctly, but it was just this team was sneakily good. And you give him another year. You give Jerry Kill, who's a good head coach, you give him another year, and let's see what this team can do. And this team could be really good. So, yeah, I think looking at the stats, I don't think you could say they're the best team in the Conference USA, but I think them winning over 6 games, I think that could be a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good. I like that bet. I'll be a New Mexico State fan with you as well. Better than New Mexico.
There we go. Yeah, very much so. That's not saying much. All right. My next team I want to go over. Western Kentucky. I have them as an elevator up team. 9-5 last year, plus 9.9 power rating, which is really strong for this conference. What's interesting here is Tyson Helton's been there a few years. It seems like he's never had the same OC for more than 1 year in a row. He has a new OC this time. Last year, their offensive rating was plus 6.4. It was by far the strongest of any team in the conference. If I look at their passing offense by my Ryan metric, they're 1,000 yards better than the second place passing team in the conference, Middle Tennessee. Their total offense is 1,300 yards better than the number 2 team in this conference, Liberty. Austin Reed, their quarterback, had a really good season last year. Apex of 112, 10 points higher than the number 2 rated quarterback. And even though they were a big loser in how much Ryan they lost from the receiving core last year, they're still well above average in this conference. So I think the offense is, aside from trying to figure out if the new OC is going to work out, which Tyson Helton just seems to make happen, I don't see any problems here on offense. Their defensive rating I had is a plus 3.0, by far the best of any team in Conference USA. Um, I actually, I have them nationally more than, I guess in the top third in both defensive apex. So basically, we take the apex that they allowed over the season and total defense, which is really strong in Conference USA. One problem is that they're below average in returning talent and the total experience on their defense. I think overall the talent level here is just so far above everybody else, especially you consider the teams that left, that their talent level is just way above everybody else. And I think that literally this is the most likely G5 conference champion, just the easiest path, the biggest disparity over the rest. I love the New Mexico State story, but I haven't seen any conference futures yet. But I got to think that I can't imagine these guys are north of plus 200. Sorry, I didn't ask you about this beforehand, but this is just if I can get plus 200 or more, I'm definitely jumping on it.
Let me see if I can find that number. For some reason, it seems as though Bet365 has taken down the non-Power 5 stuff, so that makes me sad. But I will see if I can find it. Let's see, I'll find somewhere else. But anyways, talking about Western Kentucky though, like this school is actually like sneakily pretty good. They've produced basically two NFL quarterbacks, Mike White and Bailey Zapp. Bailey Zapp beat the Green Bay Packers last year, guys. Like that's not easy to do. It's like the Green Bay, like they're generally a pretty good team. I mean, they had a down year, but they almost made the playoffs. So like Bailey Zappi filled in for Mac Jones and was like legitimately competing with Mac Jones for a large part of last year after he got injured. So like this program has been pretty elite. And again, last year they didn't match Bailey Zappi. It sounded like they were probably not going to be able to do that with Austin Reed, but he was pretty good. Like that's a reasonable upgrade. Like that's a reasonable, like, okay, you're not going to get that level again. It's a downgrade, but like that's not a horrible fall off. And again, you get a lot of the team back. Yeah. You keep your same head coach, because this again, Western Kentucky's had a couple of years of success here. That's like next time there's going to be a head coach vacancy, and there probably will be one soon. I can't think off the top of my head what the next likeliest head coaching vacancy will be. Yeah, they took care of most of them this last year. I think there's not really many that stick out. Like last year, we knew like Nebraska was like, we're like, okay, it's Nebraska, and like Colorado, but like there's nothing that's like it's gonna be this one. At least not right now, at least. But
well, yeah,
like,
you never know. Like we didn't think Wisconsin was going to open, so
no, that's true. But like I can't think of one off the top of my head. But anyways, like he could be a candidate for the next one, right? And I think it could be a really interesting. This could be a really good team, and I think I'm excited if there's a team that like from a school that like no one's ever heard of becoming like an actually good team. And like again, you actually mentioned it. They have a pretty easy path to a G5 conference championship next year. That gets you to the playoff, right? Not this year,
if they're the best one,
year,
yeah.
If you win one, there will be a G5. It's a top 6 ranked conference champions, which that means one of them has to be a Power 5. So if you get numbers beside your name and you win a conference championship game, guess what? You could be going to the playoffs, right? And then now, okay, then you're gonna have to play someone, but some of those teams are gonna make the playoffs aren't gonna be good. They're just gonna be like teams that have big names. Like Penn State probably would have made it last year, maybe, and they could have easily beaten Penn State or something. Like so, like it's not. They could get there. They could win a game. They could start building a national audience. So yeah, this is an exciting team, and I'm excited to see the birth of this team potentially as a college football dynasty. Hopefully, maybe.
You brought up one thing that I kind of failed to consider, let alone mention, is Reed was by far the best quarterback statistically or by my metrics in the conference, and last year was his first year as a starter, as Bailey Zappi had the job the year before. So in year 2, he could really just kind of just distance the whole conference in terms of just the offense that they put on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know. We got to keep an eye on what they are to win the Conference USA. I think anything over plus 200 is definitely jumping in with both fists. Elevator down. Sam Houston. This is not.
I have the number. Sorry, I have the number.
Oh, yes,
plus 140. Plus 140.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's too fair.
But the thing is, that sounds like
Doggone
a
it.
small number,
Okay.
but they get to the conference championship game, they're minus 800.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I gotta figure that out. What's their odds to get there? Okay. Cool. Elevator down. Sam Houston. FCS last season, so it's a little tricky to figure out where they're going to, line up. Um, a little bit of trivia. Actually, Willie Fritz, the Tulane head coach, actually coached you in 2010 to 13. Sam Houston won a title in the spring of 2021. They did not play during the COVID season. Instead, they played in spring. They won the national title. Then they had a really good fall of 2021. So over those, weird to say, 2 seasons that they played in the year of 2021, spring and fall, they went 21-1 collectively. But last season they regressed. This is interesting. So if you read Phil Steele, the coach is saying that, yeah, we redshirted a lot of guys in anticipation of this move up to FBS. All right, I can buy that narrative. But here's the problem. If I dig through the depth chart, I see that only 3 of the offensive linemen actually started for that title team. So I don't know about that. And I think the participation on defense is even less in terms of um, how many of the defense actually played on that title team. So yeah, they might have redshirted, but who knows what they would have done. They were 5-4. Their quarterback play was horrible. Their quarterback had a apex rating of 46, and that's against FCS opponents. So I think I've got my first name on the bum list watch list for 2023. I can't remember the gent's name, but yeah, he plays for Sam Houston. I think Phil kind of got his the wool pulled over his eyes on this one. I think that they are in a bad situation. Their passing game was horrible last year, and it's not going to be any better this year as they step up. Circa has their total at 4. The under is at minus money at minus 125. I'm not going to play it, but I think under's the way to go here.
Yeah, I mean, when you see this and you're like, oh, a team coming from D2 to D1, you're like, they must have been a really good team last year. No, they weren't. And that is a very concerning part of this. I think that if you can't have, I mean, obviously they had success in the past, so that's fine. And longer term, they'll probably be okay. Because Sam Houston State is where? Is it Texas? Is it Houston?
Yeah, I think it's in
Mm-hmm.
Houston, or maybe like the way that these stupid things work out, it's made in a suburb of Houston.
Okay, basically, it's Texas, and Texas has a big recruiting footprint. So
Yeah.
eventually, they'll probably be okay. But we care about this year, right? We care about this win total. We care about this. That's the thing, right? And yeah, eventually they could win this conference, but that's not going to be this year, and that's not. Yeah, so this seems like a bad. This seems like a team that's going to be in a bad situation this year. Because if you can't compete
It kind of
for,
seems.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, please. Well, it
Okay.
just seems like the coach that didn't do his homework.
Yeah.
He didn't read the book, and now it's time for the book report. It's like you didn't get ready for this. I mean, his narrative is that we redshirted a lot of guys. Well, guess what?
But
They
how
were
does that
new
even make
guys, and
sense? What?
everybody stunk.
Yeah. Well, what's the point in okay, we're gonna redshirt people so they start next year, but then they'd have experience, so then they'd be better when they start next year. So we're like, oh, we're gonna make sure with the transfer portal, redshirts are functionally irrelevant now.
Yeah.
What's the point in It just
Well,
seems like a bad idea, and it seems like this doesn't seem like a solid plan, and yeah, this could go pretty badly. So
if what you could be just bad, or you could be bad and rusty. So why not go for both, right?
yeah.
Um, so, I don't know. Not my business plan, but I guess that's what they do. And it's Huntsville, Texas, is where they're
Okay.
located. All right, stairs up. A couple teams here. The first one is Jacksonville State, 9-2 in 2022. The other team, that's their first season in FBS. It's their second season under Rich Rodriguez. We'll get to his resume in a minute. They actually went 9-1 last season versus FCS. They had one game versus FBS. They lost to Tulsa. They actually were a really good FCS team. Their average game against FCS opponents, they won by a score of 38-20. Their quarterback, as opposed to the guy at Sam Houston, his apex versus FCS opponents was 112. I'm not going to count that as in the Austin Reed stratosphere because that was versus FCS, but clearly, this is a guy that is a very competent plus quarterback. The Rich Rodriguez resume, we have to look at that here. 7 seasons at Division II at the start of his career. He had 4 conference titles, 1 national title. When eventually became the coach of West Virginia, 7 seasons, he had 4 conference titles. Michigan was a debacle, and I think everybody remembers him for that, and I think that's why he's severely underrated and underappreciated. He is the only coach to ever take Arizona to the Pac-12 title game. He took Arizona to a New Year's Six Bowl. I think that's been done once before. Dick Tomey took him to the Fiesta Bowl in the 90s. And then in his first season, last season at Jacksonville State, he won the conference, the Atlantic Sun. So, this guy knows how to win. He's been a winner everywhere except for Michigan. So I think that the market's totally overlooking this guy. What's really interesting is in week 1, they're home favorites against UTEP. Actually, it's week 0. So they're moving up and they're already favored against an established FBS team. Vegas has a total of 4.5. The over is a little bit minus money at -115. I'm kind of itching to bet this, but I can't bet them all. I think it's not the worst bet in the world. I think if you told me I had to make 30 bets this season, I definitely put it on the list, but I'm not gonna bet it. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes over pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. This is just a quick note here because we have to remember and remind ourselves of this. Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State are ineligible to win the Conference USA this year. Yep. Because of the stupid transfer rule that is ridiculous. I don't even know why that's so dumb. But anyways, you can't. That's so blind. And also James Madison doesn't get an exception this year, which is also very annoying too.
I was going to say, we should call it the James Madison rule. I was losing my mind over that last year when they were undefeated.
They applied for an exemption for this year and they didn't get it this year, so they still can't win this year. Yeah.
Rules are rules, buddy. I don't know what your problem is. Come on.
I don't even know, why would you even make this rule? Like, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, is it to prevent other teams from doing it? Okay,
but they're going to do it anyways. They can make millions of dollars.
What are they saving us from another pandemic or something with this? I mean, this isn't behavior that we need to stop.
Yeah, this isn't like a mask mandate or something. This isn't like, hey, get vaccinated or something. It's like, hey, we want to stop other teams from joining Division I. Look, they're going to do it anyways because now you could be in the. I mean, they're obviously not going to get SEC invites, but like, their teams are making millions and millions of dollars a year on TV revenue. So like, we got to stop this. We can't have more teams.
Yeah, we don't want good teams from FCS coming up because, God forbid, you be successful. I don't know. It's dumb.
We have to stop good FCS teams from coming up, but we can't like relegate UConn. No, we can't. We have to keep. They are an FBS team. They must remain an FBS team. But other teams, no, they should stay where they are. No, I mean Jacksonville State is a really good team. This is the team that I believe upset Coach Prime there in his final FCS game, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did. So they were a pretty good. They were a good team last year, and I think. Watch out for them now in the FBS. Again, unfortunately, they can't win anything or go to a bowl. But again, and as we saw last year with James Madison, I think for some of these teams, I think they're like, well, our regular season is our bowl, and we're just going to like be undefeated or something to prove everybody, like, hey, we should have been there. And I could see them doing something like winning like 9 games, and then being like, well, yeah, we should have put them in a bowl. So, yeah, it's a dumb rule, and I think maybe I think this could be a pretty good team this year.
Yeah, it seems like Rodriguez got it right in terms of making the step up. He read the book and he got the book report ready that the Sam Houston coach doesn't. So
yeah.
All right, my other elevator up team or stairs up team is Louisiana Tech, and this surprised me because I was ready to just crush them. They were 3-9 last year, -8.7 power rating. Second season under head coach Sonny Cumby, who before that has been offensive coordinators at a few places, most recently TCU in 2021. Their offensive rating last year was flat versus the prior year, basically -4 each year. What's interesting is you really got to dig deeper on this because they had their quarterbacks that started the season last year is named Parker McNeil. He was at Troy in 2020 and then Texas Tech in 2021. He only threw one pass in those 2 seasons. Last year, his apex alone was 125, which is really, really good. The problem is he got hurt twice. And his 2 backups had an apex combined of 44, which is really bad. Like, shouldn't be playing FBS ball. I think that Parker McNeil retired. I'm guessing. I looked him up on social media. There's nothing. He's not in the transfer portal, so I'm thinking he just had to retire. So into
or he graduated. He graduated he transferred to the real world.
Well, that sucks. Poor guy. So into this, sneakily good offense, we get Hank Bachmeier from Boise State. And if we look at him, this is interesting. His apex by season. Freshman year, 124. Then goes out to 102, 106. And then last year, he had that disaster 35 where he left right when they fired the offensive coordinator. Proven guy, and he's going into what I think is a really good situation. And I go back and I look a little deeper at Sonny Cumby. His offense, like I said, he was last offensive coordinator at TCU in 2021. He actually, that offense was a plus 7.8, which is literally 7 points better than the offense that TCU took to the title game last year. Defensively, their defense was horrible. They literally were 1 single yard better than South Florida to avoid being the worst team overall by my metrics. They have very low returning starts. Their improvement metric is low on defense. That might be that they just got rid of everybody because they stunk so bad. The total's 5.5 and the over is -120, which is interesting considering that they were 3-9 last year. And I think I'm, as much as anything, interested more in the over is -120. So it's not just that a high number was set compared to last year, but people are even going over that. And it's not like you have a bunch of dopes that are betting on Louisiana Tech either way. I think this is going to be informed money. I don't know if I can bet that. This is another one where I'm kind of itching to, but I'm going to probably refrain. But I wouldn't surprise me if it goes over the 5.5. I'm definitely going to look at that because that defense has so many issues. I'm definitely going to look at them as a team to play on the over in the first few weeks with those defensive problems they had, and Bachmeier and that offense that was sneakily really, really good last season. And what's interesting is in week 0, they play FIU and they're a 9-point favorite, which seems like a short number. Now, maybe the market knows more than I do, but FIU is going to have some real challenges on defense, and I could see Louisiana Tech scoring in the 40s in this one.
Mm-hmm. The big thing here, I kind of think is a coup, is how did they get Hank Bachmeier? Right? Like, I honestly, I'd take Hank Bachmeier over some of the starters that other teams got. Like,
you
legitimately,
you take him over Graham Mertz?
Maybe not. Graham Mertz is one of the ones where and I know I love what you're saying. I'm gonna be a hypocrite here because I made fun of people who were like, Graham Mertz had those 5 good games, but I'm gonna okay, he actually did have 5 good games, so maybe he's better. There's appropriate levels of expectations. Here's the thing. I know it sounds crazy, but there's appropriate levels of this though. But this is the thing. No, but he's better than Jeff Sims. What did Nebraska do? Did Hank Bachmeier call up Nebraska and be like, "Hey, did you know I'm in the transfer portal?" They're like, "Yeah, we know. Do you want me to? No, you're good." How did it fall to LA Tech? LA Tech has been one of the worst teams for a long time. This is far from a dominant team. They are far outshined by LSU and any other team from the South. Really, they're never on TV, national TV. Yet somehow they pull off generally one of the better or at least I feel, one of the better quarterback transfers. I don't even
Yeah.
know how that makes sense. And yeah,
Well, I think Covey's reputation from TCU, and then I think that helps him a lot. And what you said about TV is no longer accurate. The whole month of October is all
that's
Conference
for sure.
USA during the week. Maybe
But like,
Bachmeyer wants to be exposed.
but see, like, yeah, that's the thing that gets me. Like, why would he want to go to LA Tech? Was it literally no one else offered him, or was he like, because like when I went to university, now this is actually a pretty long time ago, but like I had to like rank my university choices. Was he sitting there be like LA Tech won? Like I don't think
That's
that
it.
happened.
Not just that, there was no number two. It was that, or
That's
just he was going to graduate into life, like Mr. McNeil.
But see, I think that's what it is. I think like, and the fact that there was no number two speaks volumes of like no one was like we want like again. I think there's a lot of teams that could have done if they could have taken Bachmeyer over who they got, and we're gonna talk about them, and maybe we'll just like that'll be the cutoff. We'll be like, would I take Bachmeyer over this person? And like for a lot of them, it's
Yeah,
gonna be like yes.
I,
So, but
I. There's a lot that don't make sense. I don't know. Maybe later in this episode, but definitely in other new quarterbacks that landed in different places. I definitely agree with you. Do you have? I don't know. The unfair question. We got a production meeting in the middle of the podcast here. Do you have those week zero lines up? I'm kind of curious if that's still at -9. That seems really really short to me.
I can find
I would
that.
put that more like 12 and a half or 13.
Uh 10. It's 10 now. I got
Moved a
10
little.
flat on
Okay.
Bet365. I'll check. Bodog. Some of them are taking a bit to adjust. It's still 9 on Bodog or
Wow.
Bovada.
I can't see
Bet365
that.
seems a bit sharper. The one week
Yeah.
zero line that I don't understand. We'll get there eventually. Spoiler alert, why is Notre Dame only 19.5 point favorites against Navy?
Yeah. Well, let's ask Dylan. Maybe that
That's
drives him
yeah.
nuts.
That just like the fact that I want to immediately bet Notre Dame, like that just is this a trap? This feels like, but it's Sam Hartman. But is this a trap? Like that's such an obvious trap. But like it's
Yeah,
Sam
that's weird.
Hartman. Like that's weird.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. Maybe I'm way off on FIU, or maybe again, this is just kind of where I'm way more into a team rightly or wrongly than the masses. But again, I don't think I am, because that 5.5 and over is getting played. There's going to be improvement over a team that was sneakily not bad last year. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, sounds like we're aligned on Louisiana Tech. You have them also like as a stairs up kind of team. Fair?
We are different on one or two here, so
Okay.
there is a big difference we have on this list. Don't worry.
No, but on Louisiana Tech, you have them as a stairs
Louisiana
up. Is
Tech
that
we
fair?
agree, yeah, but don't worry. There's a surprise
Okay.
coming. Don't worry.
Okay. Next, stairs down, I have Liberty. Um, Kind of didn't know what to do here. This is a little tricky. They were 8-5 last season. Overall power rating of plus 1.7. They get Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina. He did a great job there. Their offense was actually a negative 1.3 last season. What's interesting is their quarterback is Caden Salter. I think he'll probably be a good fit. In the first two games last season, you might remember that I actually had Liberty under in a season win total because Charlie Brewer was slated to be the starter, and that lasted not even a game. This jerk stole Charlie Brewer's job and killed my under, Mr. Salter. First two games, his apex was 141, which is outstanding against Southern Miss and UAB. So basically, he's proved it at this level. He missed 4 games in October and November, but then in his last 6, his apex slid to a 67 and an interception rate of 3.67, which is just way too high. Now, I don't know if he was hurt or not. That's kind of the big unknown here and why I'm a little iffy. I don't know what to do with this team. The guy can run. In his best 4 games, he ran for almost 6 yards a carry. One thing that I'm a little iffy on too, there's just a lot of these things that make me a little unsure. you know, the Coastal Carolina offense only worked for Chadwell with Grayson McCall. I'm I kind of just need to be convinced that somebody else can do it before I'm all in. I'm positively inclined towards him, but I need to be convinced. This team also lost half of their Ryan from last season, so they're not totally starting over, but there's not a lot left from their offensive last season, which was not, not awesome, but I guess okay by Conference USA standards. Their defense is a plus 2.6. They were good against the run and pass. But they have among the lowest in all of FBS in terms of returning starts and total experience. The News EC was a defensive line coach at Coastal, so that's a concern for me too. First time coordinator. The season total for Circa on them is 9, and the over is getting play. It's minus 115. Now, they do have an awesome non-conference schedule. They get Bowling Green, who in our gambling lessons pod, I said is just primed for a huge implosion. They're at Buffalo, who I think is no bueno. Old Dominion, not sure what you have there. And UMass, who I am sure what we have there, and it's horrible. So maybe this is more reflective of a pretty favorable non-conference schedule. But 9 seems awfully high, especially if you're going over that to 10. Hard for me to see. Is this where we disagree?
No, we're still pretty much on it. I think I'd probably say more stuck in the lobby than stairs down. I don't hate Chadwell. Chadwell is really good at Coastal, but probably gonna take him a couple. Like, it is a bit difference of a program. Chadwell obviously has like the triple option there at Coastal Carolina. Liberty doesn't have that, so it's gonna take him a bit to either get away from the triple option or make Liberty a triple option team. So I think, stairs down's kind of fair, but I think there might just be kind of just this middle ground where like they're good enough to beat enough teams to be okay, but also they're not they're not bad that they're going to start losing random. Well, Liberty also just kind of randomly does lose random games, but like they're not just going to get randomly blown out by other teams. So if that makes sense, I think they're going to kind of more tread water. And that's kind of what stairs down is, though. But
except when they play New Mexico State, who now is a conference foe. Remember, New Mexico State just boat raced them. But for the most part, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is Liberty's just they have a ton of money as a private school. I think that probably helps in kind of everything when it comes to college football. And a good coach, it helps you get a nice coach like this. So.
They got Hugh Freeze, right? Like that was the thing, right? Like that was why they got Hugh Freeze.
I think they got him from the shelter, though. It's not like they beat out Ohio State for Hugh Freeze. So
no, I know that, but like I think he could have been a little higher than that. And I think that Jamie Chadwell kind of fits into there with like he could have maybe moved on to a better school, but
yeah, definitely. That's interesting too. Leaving for this job from Coastal's an interesting move. I got to think about that a little more, see if that affects the Sunbelt preview. But that's a different pod. Okay. In the lobby is fair. There's a lot of questions, but they're not all going to be negative, I don't think. But man, 9 just seems high to me anyways for the total
That does
wins.
seem really high.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe that could be, actually I'll quickly make a point on that. You got 9 there. That might be like a sneakily good underplay because probably a lot of evangelical sports bettors who can take they're probably putting Liberty over. So
are they like sneaking in at night, so the pastor doesn't know they're making the bets? Is that how that works? I don't know. Not to
you do it on your phone now.
Faith, but
they're probably not doing it in church.
Okay. They're geo-blocked in church. Okay,
that's the South. I don't know. You never know.
7, who I was true. UTEP 5-7 last season. I was all over this team, and that just didn't work out on either front. Negative 5.7 power rating. Their quarterback really took a turn for the worse last season. Their picks fell to a 72 in his third year of starting. I think that he missed Jacob Cowing, who transferred. to Arizona. I'm not sure about, their best player by far was Tyron Smith. We actually talked about him a couple times in our best receivers throughout last season. I'm saying that he might be in the transfer portal. He might not be. He might return. I don't know. Um, if he is no longer with the program, they kind of they might be an elevator down team. But I couldn't find the information, which kind of speaks to where UTEP sits in the college football universe. And I say this is somebody who proudly backed him last season. Um, they have a very experienced offensive line, but the metrics don't project them to improve a whole bunch. Their pass defense on the other side of the ball was one of the worst in all of FBS, and they have a horrible improvement metric. They're going to be one of the, if in theory everybody improves from year to year, they're going to show the least improvement, maybe in all of FBS. As I mentioned earlier, they're actually a 2-point dog in week 0 to a team making their debut in FBS at Jacksonville State. Their total for Circa is 5.5 wins. Kind of want to play the under, but I think there's kind of a hefty middle / lower middle class here where they can maybe get a few easy wins that push them over that. I do actually, I made a note here. On Friday, September 29th, my birthday, if anybody wants to steal my identity, they actually host Louisiana Tech. I've got my eye on that one. That might be Louisiana Tech just goes nuts over a horrible defense that doesn't play the pass well and shocks everybody. I think that's the game I'm going to look at in terms of maybe to bet and just really tells the tale of their season for 2023.
So, this is where we're going to differ. Because I know. Last year I watched randomly a lot of UTEP games because I had their over too. And this team wasn't horrible. Their record didn't show up, but they were not horrible. And I think they keep the better of the quarterbacks from last year. They seem to have kept most of their offensive line is huge. You cannot understate how important having a good offensive line is in football. Yeah, okay, cornerback, they're deep back, they were bad against the pass, okay. But you can fix that slowly over time. They basically keep their receivers and again they improve year over year as well. This team could maybe crack their win total this year. I think they can maybe make a bowl, get to 6-6 again. I think.
Oh my gosh.
I know. You're taking stairs down.
Wow.
You take stairs up, I guess.
Okay. So at that game against Louisiana Tech is on a Friday. I'm going to be watching that rather than going out to some nice restaurant because that's how I'm celebrating my birthday.
Yeah.
Would you have them favored over Louisiana Tech at home?
Well, my model probably currently would, but that means it needs to have a lot of changes to it. But yeah, new adjustments and stuff. But I'm going to be fascinated to see that game. That should be a very interesting game.
And that's right when, what do we call that? USA action? I don't know. For the Maction before Maction? Those weekday games? USA action? That's just,
there needs to be a name right when it starts. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll workshop that. So, that's kind of what this podcast is about. Just we both are looking forward to that game. Awesome.
Yeah. I love how there's random everybody's oh man, I can't wait to see Ohio State play this weekend, and we're no, it's this one specific game on a Friday night on a network. Yep. You watch it on the actual network it was intended to be watched on. I watch it on an illegal stream that has pop-up ads for porn websites. That's fine though, but that's what we're looking for.
Yep, exactly.
And I will say that fun fact. I'm not watching it on some illegal website because I can't I physically legally can't watch it because of weird Canadian laws. There's even if I wanted to pay, they won't let me pay to watch that game. So,
you know what? That's kind of why teams can't go to FBS. Why can't you watch that game? How about if we just change both those rules at the same time? Okay, you can actually pay to watch the game. And then we'll get rid of the FCS up to FBS penalty.
So the thing is, I'm not sure if you're aware, but in Canada we have basically our telecoms are run by a monopoly of basically 3 companies. Bell, Telus, and Rogers, and basically all sports runs through. Well, in terms of sports, it's all Bell and Rogers. Bell owns Rogers Sportsnet. Or no, Bell owns TSN. Okay, whatever. One of them owns one of them, and then one of them owns Rogers Sportsnet, and then Rogers owns Rogers Sportsnet. Bell owns TSN, which is so. Those are the two sports stations, and they're also telecom. So basically, they only we're going to show this game, and if you can't watch that's it. They own the exclusive broadcast rights to all football, which actually works relatively well for the NFL. But when we want to watch a weird college football game on a Friday, that's not happening. They're like, no,
you don't have Rogers Sports 17 or something like that.
No, there's 4 TSNs, and sometimes they all show the same things. It's TSN 3 through 4 are throwing this. They're showing on Friday night. They're like, we're going to show a hockey game on a Friday night. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But then 3 of them are showing that hockey game. I'm like, come on, we could do better.
Well, because some people might have 4 but not 2, right? So you have to show it to them. Yeah. Okay.
But see, this is the thing, right? We don't have ESPN. We do not get the ESPN channel. Does not exist in Canada. I bet a lot of people, Americans probably don't even know that. You can't. There's no ESPN. There's no ESPN2. There's nothing. Now, our TSN, there's a deal with ESPN where a lot of the stuff that's on ESPN goes there, but they're only going to pick the big tier things. They're only going to pick, ESPN Sports Center. I think a lot of that gets picked up by. We have our own version of it, but it's the same clips, I think. But and graphics too. It's very weird. But they're we're gonna pick the top content. So the top college football games end up on Canadian TV, but the other ones they don't. And we don't get to subscribe to ESPN 17, right? So.
So okay, well, pity for you, but yeah, you'll get it on your bootleg site there.
Yes.
All right, Middle Tennessee State. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them because I have them stuck in the lobby. They had a horrible run game last season. Their quarterbacking was even worse. Apex of 57. They lost over half of their Ryan from last season. The good news, if there is any, is their offensive line should be improved. They had a good defense, which actually has among the highest improvement metrics, although there's this weird kind of little thing we talked about last year where you had Middle Tennessee and Miami and James Madison, and just Middle Tennessee just boat racing Miami, and then playing James Madison kind of screwed up the metrics of the last 2 of those teams. So I don't know if their defense is that good, but they'll still probably be good by Conference USA standards.
Mm-hmm. It's Middle Tennessee, not a lot of improvement, not a lot of getting worse, but not a lot either. It's just kind of basically staying the same. One nice thing I will say about this team, though, is that they beat Miami last year, so that means this coach gets to keep his job for at least another year. So
that was a fun game to watch. That was an amazing game to watch.
That game was amazing. It was
we might talk about that in the ACC preview. I don't know. We might.
Yes, that I still remember that game. I'm just I was this is incredible, and it was I don't think there wasn't even. I don't even think there was commentary for the game. It was that's how relegated it was. There was no commentary. It was just there was a game and it was stadium audio. They were this game doesn't even matter, and it was one of the greatest upsets in the history of college sports.
You know what happened is maybe just one of the announcers was sick and nobody was watching and nobody said anything. Nobody knew.
I think there's a lightning warning for the game too. It had to start to. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Just we'll talk about that game when we talk about Miami. But he beat Miami last year, so he gets to keep his job for another year. That's the rules.
So you have him stuck in the elevator lobby as well?
Yeah, they're stuck in the lobby. Maybe even stairs down, I'd say. But
yeah. Okay. Last Florida International, 4-8 last season. Second season under Mike McIntyre. I'm kind of gonna go against my own rule. He's a defensive guy. He improved their defense in 1 year from a 12.1 to a 4.3, which is kind of like if you took USC last year and made him to Alabama last year, that same level of improvement. So I liked what he did at San Jose State. I liked what he did at Colorado. They fired him way too quickly, as events since have proven out. The problem is that their defense this year is among the least experienced, so he kind of has to start over again. Their quarterback had a 36 apex over the entire season, and he's still the starter. I don't know if maybe he just was hurt all season. They had no alternative, but he was just awful. Just bum list material from day one. The offensive line doesn't figure to improve. Um, I like McIntyre, but the fact that he's starting all over on the defense side of the ball is just too much for me with that horrible offense. So I think I'm being a little generous. I don't know. Stuck in the lobby, I think, is just where they are. Um, I can't have an improvement with that horrible quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, it seems like it's a very top heavy league here. Western Kentucky at the top, maybe Jacksonville State. They're kind of a bigger question mark, but they seem to definitely be at the top of the league. And then maybe LA Tech there, but outside of that, and maybe New Mexico State a little bit too. But outside of that, just like 5 other teams are just like, oh, this is. Now it's gonna be fun games to watch, but it's just like, yeah, no, this team is not a good team.
No, it's basically I think aside from the newness of the new teams, there kind of seems to be like a very MAC feel, just the MAC of the South with the weekday games and a couple of good teams, and then a pretty large middle/lower middle class where anything can happen, and it'll be fun to watch because there'll be like some really goofy, weird, inexplicable plays.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay, so to wrap this up, you hit on this. The first coach from this conference to be hired away to a Power 5 job. Sounds like you think it's going to be Tyson Helton?
Yeah, from Western Kentucky. I mean, again, I feel like there's only so many NFL quarterbacks you can raise before they're like, yeah, okay, you should be a Power 5 head coach. And again, I'm not even... We'll save this obviously for like coaching hot seat, but like last year they really cleared out a lot of coaches that were on the hot seat. Like,
yeah,
there's not many left.
Yeah, to your point, there isn't somebody that's like, wow, I'll have to think about this. Like, wow, how did this guy survive? I'll have to think about that. And we'll get on that when we get to the preseason lists, our watch list for Club Hot Seat. I have Helton too. What's interesting too is among his brother's numerous fatal flaws at USC was the guy had no Rolodex at all. He just hired people that he knew or he was told to hire because he didn't know anybody. And at the other end, you have Tyson Helton, who's like getting a new offensive coordinator every season and still succeeding. So he clearly knows how to, manage change, which is not easy at a program like this. That's, it's in the conference with the least amount of media rights, and it's going to be under resourced, and he makes it happen. So he knows what he's doing. And plus, as soon as he left USC, the offense fell apart in 2019. Okay, lastly, who plays for the conference title of America's Conference, Conference USA?
Western Kentucky and New Mexico State.
Wow, you took my picks. Yep.
Well,
likewise.
here's the thing. If you want, so obviously Western Kentucky is plus 140 to win the Conference USA. What do you think New Mexico State is?
They're probably like plus 1,800 to 2,400.
35.
Wow. Are you serious?
Dead serious.
All right, I got to think about that. But, they'll be such dogs. I don't think you can hedge that enough. It'd be tough to hedge it if they actually make it.
That's the problem, right? When you're looking at these conference championships ones, and you're like, can this team actually win the conference? Because if you're like, okay, they can get to the conference championship game, and there's a couple of them that are attractive, like LSU, Wisconsin. Those are potential attractive ones. But you're like, can this team actually? Because here's the thing: what's the point in betting Wisconsin at? I don't even know what they are to win the thing. What are they?
Probably like what?
Wisconsin's 7-1 to win the Big Ten.
5 or 6.
7-1 to win the Big Ten, right? Okay, fine. Wisconsin. Say it's the Big Ten. We get to the Big Ten championship game. It's Wisconsin versus Michigan or Ohio State. Say it's Ohio State. Oh, Wisconsin's plus 500 to beat Ohio State, right? What did we do? Right? We just parked money. We could have put that in a government bond, U.S. Treasury there, right? So this is the thing, right? So now, I think for some of them they can. I think of the two I mentioned right there, I think one of them can. At least one of them can. We'll say that for that respective conference preview, but can it actually win? And I think New Mexico State could actually, but we'll see. I think
Well,
if
yeah,
this
and at
team
that
believes
point,
enough, I think they can.
yeah, at 35, I mean, that's just worth a little bit of money just for like, okay, you know, if they're, I don't know, if I'd kind of just take out what they would be, what, maybe plus 500
Yeah, that
against
one is worth it.
Western, then that's 7-1 to get there. I've made worse bets than that for sure, and I still
Mm-hmm.
will. Yeah, all right, I'll think about that.
Yeah,
Um, all right, so are you impressed with Conference USA as a Canadian who's looking down upon Conference USA?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. I think this is gonna be Mac level, but it's good. Like Mac level is fun. I mean, I've seen some hilarious plays um, within the MAC. Like there was like I remember there was a game. It was like a late night game between Central Michigan or Western Michigan and I think some other team. And then there was like they were driving down the field and it was like a fake spike to get. And it's like and I remember in that game that the first down marker the guy ran into it and like as this is happening there's like a first down marker that's like bent in half. It's like amazing stuff like that it makes college football amazing. And I think we could see some fun stuff happening here within this year.
Yeah, I
Especially
was
when it's on weekday,
surprised.
because yeah,
Yes, I was surprised how excited. I mean, when I looked at this list, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And after going through it, I'm genuinely excited for this conference. Surprisingly
hmm
so. I can't wait.
and this is the thing, right? Like when these games are being played at the same time of 10 other games on on a Saturday,
Yeah,
not so
yeah,
fun, right? Because this gets lost in the shuffle. But when you're suddenly putting this on prime time on a Wednesday when there's literally nothing else to watch, oh yeah, this is amazing. This is going to be good,
yeah.
right? So
Okay, cool. Well, Conference USA. I hope everybody appreciated that and enjoyed it as much as we did.
yeah, that's the first conference preview in the books, and many more to go. Next week we're gonna we're gonna have podcast guests now. We have the ability to have guests now with the new recording software, and yeah, we got a lot more coming, and yeah, so we're slowly working our way to the college football season to week 0 here. So I'm pretty excited. So
Absolutely.
this is gonna be good.
All right.
All right,
Thank you
see
all.
ya.